Everybody ready? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call this meeting of the Horn Lake Board of Aldermen to order. As always, we appreciate you coming out, especially on this cold night. Good government depends on the citizens being involved, and we certainly thank you for coming. At this time, I'd like to call on Alderman Bledsoe for our invocation.
Bow your ears, please. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this night, and protect everybody in this cold weather and keep them well, and let everybody check on their neighbors. And again, this sickness that's going around, help heal everybody and keep those that hadn't got it from getting it. And again, Jesus, thank you for Horn Lake, Mississippi. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Would you please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance led by Alderman Young?
And salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Hope everyone had a good Christmas, and I'd like to extend to all of you our hope and prayers for a good and happy and safe and healthy new year. All right, Mr. Jim, roll call, please, sir.
Alderman Klein.
Here.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Here.
Alderman Geis.
Here.
Alderman Bostic.
Here.
Alderman Johnson.
Here.
Alderman Dupree.
Here.
Alderman Young.
Here.
All right, that's 7. All right, we have a quorum. Our first item on the municipal docket is the vote on the docket. Do we have a motion?
Mayor.
Alderman Young.
So moved.
We have a motion by Alderman Young. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Geis. Do we have any questions, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Aye.
Alderman Klein.
Aye. Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Number 2 is the consent agenda. Do we have a motion?
Mayor,
Alderman Bostic.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda items A through M with the exception of moving letter K to executive session.
Now second, Mayor.
With the exception of what letter, sir?
K.
Okay. All right, sir. We have a motion by Alderman Bostic. We have a second by Alderman Dupree. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Moving on down on the agenda, we're at number 3. Do we have a motion?
Mayor,
Alderman Geis.
I make a motion to approve the claims docket. General Fund, $113,439.22. The bond funded cap project expense, $3,474.08. The library fund, 0. Economic Development Fund, $1,125.66. The utility fund, $133,112.16 for a total of $251,151.12.
We have a motion by Alderman Geis. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Bledsoe. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Aye.
Alderman Klein.
Aye. Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Okay, we're on number 4, special gifts and presentations. I don't have any. There are none then. All right, we're moving down to number 5, planning. Mr. Bob Barber. Welcome, sir. Glad you're enjoying good health.
Thank you, Mayor and Board. Happy New Year to you. I was asked to fill in tonight because your newly appointed planning director, Mr. Barr, I believe, is ill. And And this is a case that I worked on when I was filling in temporarily over the summer. You'll recall it. This is Ravenwood, Section G, and the request is for final approval for 34 townhome lots in this section. Was heard by the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission recommended approval. That was back in July, I believe. It came to the board. There were a number of issues that surfaced in between the Planning Commission and the board, and the board had concerns over it. I'll show you the map in just a moment. One of those, by the way, you might just scroll through and just to recall the units. This is Ravenwood as it is, it rotates right in that circular area. You'll note there, this is the site of where the townhomes are proposed, and there are two detention areas. There are two, this is Ravenwood, this is all the built-out section, obviously. And this is the site of the townhome, several acres of townhomes here, total of 24 units, I believe, is the unit count. I'll show you that site plan in just a moment. There is an existing stormwater detention area in the northeast corner, and it serves all of this area right here. Sorry. It serves all of this area that's built up just over here to the east. These are single-family homes. There is a second, I should say this is retention. It's wet all the time. The water is retained. It's a lake, essentially. This is detention right here. There's an area, a small area, which was constructed to handle the runoff of this proposed townhomes, which will be located in this area. This northeast corner parcel where this stormwater retention area is located is not owned by any individual or entity. It's owned by the state of Mississippi. It's been struck off to the, quote, struck off to the state because the taxes were not paid on it for multiple years. It was intended to be cared for by a homeowners association, which was never formed. That's the status of this area right here. Mr. Montesi is the applicant on this site for the townhomes. The manner in which the planned unit development document was written seems to indicate, according to the interpretation of the city attorney, it does indicate that this area is to serve the townhomes. So the discussion has been how and to what degree does this occur. So if you'll scroll on through, I'll bring it to a point in just a minute. This is the site plan of the townhomes of 24 units. The original plan showed all of this as a singular stormwater area, control area here. As already stated, it's been constructed in two pieces, and the city has an easement that goes back here to a lift station right here. So it's been divided in that way. If you'll scroll on, Jim. As we go on down, this is the actual site plan of the townhomes with the green area to be common space, and this to be common area as well. Now, Mr. Montesi is proposing a homeowners association to account for the townhome units. And my understanding is, and the applicant will state it, Mr. Billy Myers representing Mr. Montesi in a moment, that they do intend to have this homeowners association address the larger parcel, and he can cover the details of what his proposal is to do that in just a moment. And if you'll scroll on to those are the units, they're garage, individual units, two. Those are architectural renderings of the character of the units, garaged, 2 units in a run. And then finally, Jim, I think you can go on to the very last component. This is the map again of the layout. The townhomes are proposed to be right here. They are included in the PUD document. At one point, there were apartments proposed here, and when the city annexed it, the PUD was amended to eliminate the apartments, and they placed townhomes back here. And then this is the state of Mississippi parcel, the stormwater control. So I hope that is not too much summary, just to kind of bring us back up to speed of where we were when we left off. And the board had questions about the association and how the stormwater control was to work, and the applicant has a proposal, wants to propose a manner in which those detention areas will be cared for. So I'm rambling now, Mayor. That's what I have as a summary.
Does anyone on the board have any questions or comments for Mr. Bob? Alderman Young.
Thank you, Mr. Bob. So, Mr. Montesi, you're going to purchase that pond. Is that what I'm from the state of Mississippi? Is that what he's planning on doing?
Yes, sir. That's my understanding of the proposal, that they want to purchase the pond, create common area improvements here, but grant the city an easement and ask the city to care for this area over time, because it doesn't drain their site, it drains the broader neighborhood.
Okay, let me bring some clarity to that pond. I've done a little bird dogging and talked to some folks out there in the neighborhood, north and south and over in different wards, about that particular area. There never was a second pond. And actually that upper pond that is almost 6 feet higher than that one,
Right.
has a drain actually that goes into that other pond. It's not a very big one, but it drains into that pond. That pond at its deepest spot is 3.5 feet. That's part of the problem that we need to consider. I mean, Mr. Montesi's buying it. I think that's great. If you can work that out, I think that's fabulous. But it is going to have to be dredged if it's going to be used for that new addition, provided it's approved. It's just, there's a lot of ghost about that property right there, and there was never a second pond. Even Mr. Geis, Alderman Geis, looked on the GIS and saw there was never any water retained in that.
No,
Because there's a drain in the bottom.
It's always been dry.
Right, it's a drain in the bottom of it that we actually saw. The guy took me out there and said, it's not very big, but it's a drain to keep it dry.
Yes, sir.
So it's not a retention pond. There's only one retention pond, and it's that one. That's the only one.
Correct, and if I misstated, this water is detained, but
Right.
it's dry,
Right.
so the water's out, it's dry.
So if this is approved, are they gonna fill that in and make it a playground, or what, are they just gonna leave it there, or what are they gonna do?
I think Mr. Vince will tell us that this will be required to handle their drainage of the townhomes, and it'll still have to be detention, but I'll refer that to him.
We haven't made that calculation for that smaller pond at all. Haven't seen any calculation on any of this, but I'm sure they will present that tonight. Yeah.
Anyone else? Alderman Bledsoe.
Mr. Vince, I suggested to make both of those into one, and that would hold a little bit more water and keep from doing something down, I guess north, not down, up from the place. Would that work, or did y'all ever discuss it?
Well,
Because I brought it up.
we have discussed it somewhat with a meeting with the developer, but I think the first thing we need to do is probably hear their proposal.
Anyone else? Who's maintaining that now, Mr. Bob? Anyone?
Nobody's maintaining the state of Mississippi's part that I know of, and I'm assuming Mr. Montesi and the prior owner to Mr. Montesi is caring for this.
So it's not even being maintained at all right now, because this belongs to the state of Mississippi.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? All right. Mr. Montesi, or Mr. Myers, or Mr. Gruen? Good evening. If you would state your name and everything for Mr. Jim for the record, sure would appreciate it, Mr. Billy.
Mr. Mayor, members of the board, Billy Myers with Myers Law Group, PLLC, P.O. Box 876, Hernando. I'm here tonight on behalf of Chris Montesi and the LLC that owns the property that's subject to this application. Nick Croonan with Civil Link is here to answer your engineering questions for this particular project. And I know this project's been presented to this board multiple times. Hope that my presentation tonight doesn't go back over all of the things that y'all have already talked about. But it's clear to me, when I was approached by Mr. Montesi in my conversations with Mr. Campbell and Mr. Malavasi, that the detention pond, the retention pond that holds the water on the north side is kind of the holdup here. It's my understanding that the development itself, as recommended approval by the Planning Commission, is acceptable if we can resolve the issues related to this retention pond. The detention pond, which is on the property owned by Mr. Montesi, can be addressed by Nick from an engineering standpoint in just a minute. The retention pond, the one with the water in it, above it, I don't know, I guess that's to the west, I think, but in any case, maybe to the north, is a property that's owned by the state of Mississippi, as you said. Now, I don't know how that all came about necessarily, but I suspect that maybe a ball or two was dropped back in the early 2000s when this was approved initially. But for whatever reason, taxes weren't paid, the HOA wasn't formed, and that property now belongs to the state of Mississippi. It drains, as I know Nick can explain to you, and has, I think, in the past. The drainage that pond is designed to maintain, to handle, is for property that is not owned by Mr. Montesi. That pond has no utility that benefits Mr. Montesi's property. The detention pond that he plans on his property will benefit not only his property, but a lot of those in Section E, as Mr. Croonan can show you on the plan, the drainage area where the water hits the ground and flows in that direction. The one on Mr. Montesi's property will stay dry. I mean, obviously, unless it's raining at the moment. What Mr. Montesi has asked us to do is try to find a solution to this particular problem. Now, the pond, as I'm told, has not been maintained for a period of years, and I personally don't know the current status of it. But in going back through the plan unit development documentation, I will say first and foremost, it was poorly drafted. I think Billy Campbell and I will agree with that. It's somewhat ambiguous. But my reading of it, it looks to me as though it was intended that the HOA that is responsible for the common area for the townhomes is responsible for the amenities built on that retention pond. Now, there aren't any. The PUD document proposes that the developer was to build a gazebo and park benches so that the owners of the townhomes would have an amenity to benefit their home ownership. Okay, that was never done. What Mr. Montesi has authorized me to propose to this board today is that he honor that commitment from the original developer to construct the gazebo and the park benches that were originally intended, and that he would form the HOA to acquire title from the state of Mississippi to that property and pledge that the HOA, as the owner of that property, will maintain it in perpetuity. Okay, so let me be clear. That is cutting the grass, maintaining the gazebo and the park benches and whatever amenities that the HOA wants maybe to add to that for the benefit of the homeowners. But there's a distinction between drainage structures and amenities that benefit the homeowners. So what he's not proposing that whatever is intended or necessary to maintain the utility of the retention area would be the responsibility of the HOA. That pond, as I've said, drains property that's not owned by Mr. Montesi, that would not be owned by any of the townhome ownership. It's beneficial to drainage, stormwater drainage of Section C and a lot of the other properties to the right of that, which, as I said, Mr. Croonin can address that particular drainage issue for the board. So the proposal basically is, and I think it's congruent with the reading of the PUD document, that amenities were intended, they weren't built, but Mr. Montesi proposes to build them and then maintain them for the benefit of the townhome owners going forward. Proposes to build them for the HOA. The HOA collect dues and maintain that property in the future. Whatever the engineering issues are that exist today, we propose would be the responsibility of the city of Horn Lake. There are plenty of ways to address that. I know Mr. Malvasi and Mr. Croonin have discussed it to some extent. Okay. Can I answer any questions or any issue that Mr. Croonin may address?
Anyone have any questions or comments for Mr. Myers? Alderman Klein.
The original site plan, if I'm not mistaken, and Vince, you might be able to correct me, the lake was supposed to be 3.2 and handle that complete development, everything, including that other area. Now, the lake that they built, which is no fault of y'all, is like 2-acre lake. And we've had nothing but problems. I think heavy rains and stuff, we've been having flooding. So, no fault of y'all, it wasn't handled on the right. Now you're saying that y'all will just take care of the amenities, and how are you gonna take care of the drainage? Because when it was originally set in the site plan, that lake was supposed to handle everything, even this section here that y'all are gonna be building. So,
The lawyer answer to that is the detention pond that would be located on Mr. Montesi's property will handle the drainage from his property. And the engineers will work those details.
and that is, what, a 1-acre detention pond?
It's roughly 1.2 acres.
You see where I'm going with that, with that, and then that 2 acres, the original site plan had it right first place. We just, the city and whoever was signing off on this allowed them to get away with just a 2-acre lake. And so now we've got to address this to where we want to make sure that all properties, even, the ones that are there already, besides y'all's development, is going to be able to handle that rainwater.
Yeah, it's my understanding that nothing that we're doing has any impact on the drainage in that pond that exists today. It drains other land, not the land that's owned by Mr. Montesi.
Okay.
So we wouldn't have any impact on it at all.
So how does that detention pond work in with the amenities of the other pond? Is it going to be kind of developed as a recreational area too, or is it strictly going to be, just a tool for drainage?
I can speak on that. So, and I can explain a little bit of what's talked about more. So the two ponds are a 1.8 and a 1.2 acre pond. So they are 3 acres in total. The original PUD documents talk about a 3 or 3.5 acre plus or minus lake. And keep in mind, when that PUD document was drafted and that 3 acre lake was mentioned, there was no engineering design at that time. It was an assumption, no calculations were performed. Of course, we have no plans to tell us exactly why what was done was done.
Right.
But what I did do is I went back in Google Earth imagery and pulled 12 years of Google Earth imagery to see kind of the phase of construction and when things happened. The 1.8 acre lake was built at the time of Section C. So that was built at the time of Section C, and it was only a 1.8 acre lake, as well as the pump station and sewer line was installed It looks like around section C, it may have been section B, you can't really tell that from the aerial. The 1.2 acre lake was installed in phase 4, so it was installed afterwards. And me and Vince have talked about this. Of course, we're making lots of assumptions, we don't have plans, but we assume that the ponds were divided for an engineering purpose, possibly because it is two drainage basins coming there. There was probably an engineering reason of why it was divided, as well as that pump station is right in the middle of the two.
Gotcha.
So you can't combine them with allowing the sewer to work to service the entire property. So it appears that it was designed for these two ponds to handle the drainage for everybody.
Yeah.
Now, the 1.8 handles sections 1 through 3, as well as some neighboring subdivisions. And the 1.2 handles our section, as well as section E and section F, the other one that came before y'all about 4 or 5 months ago.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, and there's the drainage areas, the red and blue. So it appears they were originally designed to handle the drainage for the entire project.
Yeah.
The detention pond that is on our property, I have done preliminary calculations.
Excuse me, sir. Some of the board members can't hear you. When you speak, would you step up to the mic, please? Thank you.
The 1.2 acre detention pond, I have ran preliminary numbers on it to determine if it was properly sized, and it appears that it is large enough to handle our section as well as section E and section F, which is everything in the red. And so as part of our civil drawings that would have to be approved by Vince, we would have to include calculations to prove that that is true. So
I've got a question for Vince then. Now, Vince, this should possibly correct some of our flooding problems then, once they get this detention and everything set up. Would you say? Since it's taking part of this right now, is it?
Well, what he's saying is that section E and F.
Yeah.
In the red is basically handled by the detention there now, is that correct?
Right now.
the detention pond.
Right. So if that is operating correctly, yes, or if it's not operating correctly, it would help it. And I think that may be the case at this point, is not operating correctly. It probably needs some.
Well, the retention pond's not operating correctly possibly, but our detention pond, if there's an existing drainage problem downstream, we're not probably gonna fix it or make it worse, because it's related to a drainage basin outside of us.
All right, I understand that, but I mean, you're not gonna make it worse.
No.
That's correct. And I have to show in my calculations pre and post that I am not releasing more drainage after we leave there.
Yes.
Does anyone else have it? Alderman Dupree?
Since that's owned by the state, have you got permission from the state to use their property?
We don't, we would acquire it. The HOA would acquire title to that property. I've already reached out to all of the people to determine the procedure to do so. Mr. Montesi is prepared to go through those procedures once this plan is approved. So HOA would acquire title to that property once this plan is approved.
That's like putting a cart before the horse.
Well, it's really pretty routine.
Okay. So since it's owned by the state, if something goes wrong with it, there's something wrong with it now because it floods a lot. So since it's owned by the state, you're going to be using it more. Something goes wrong with it, we're going to have to rely on the state to come in and fix it. And how long does that take to deal with the state? It could take a long time, and people downstream are going to be flooded even more. So my question is, if something goes wrong with it, are you going to take care of it, or are you going to rely on the state?
Well, I want to make sure that the board understands that pond we're not doing anything to that pond.
I understand, but you're
that
going to have
pond
more water
services-
runoff now. Reason being, because you're going to take away the ground and you're going to put up concrete and asphalt, so that water's got to go somewhere besides in the ground.
Okay, if we can show that drainage basin picture again. That's the point of that drainage basin picture, is that our property doesn't impact that pond at all. The drainage from our property, Mr. Montese's property, does not go through that pond. That pond is used for drainage from the other sections of the subdivision, not related to ours. That's the whole point. You've got two problems, and one is the amenities and maintenance of that property was never accomplished by the developer, even though he was supposed to do it. And then if there is a drainage problem, you have that today. We didn't cause that. What we're here to propose is resolving one of those problems. We're not proposing to resolve any drainage problem that exists today. We're just saying that, our development will cut the grass and maintain it for the benefit of the homeowners. We're not impacting the drainage at all. That's more of a utility.
Okay, you're saying that the HOA is gonna take care of all the stuff that's to upkeep.
The amenities, that's right.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
now, who's gonna
So that
take care of that
resolves that
detention
problem
pond?
for you. I know you've been cutting the grass out there, I suspect, and even though the state owns it, I think the city's probably been taking care of it.
All right, maybe I just missed it. Who's gonna maintain that detention area?
The HOA on
The
our, on
HOA 's gonna
Montese's property?
Right.
The HOA would take care of that, yes.
Okay, so,
I'm sorry, detention, did I say retention? Detention.
all right, so like, say in 5 years, just throwing it out there, the HOA says, hey, we wanna dissolve. So who's gonna take care of it then? Who's it gonna fall back on? It's gonna fall back on the city. And then we're gonna have to be out money.
I think there are remedies to all of that, but, I don't know what's gonna happen in the future. I just know what we're proposing.
Right,
today
but
as
history
an HOA,
repeats
and
itself, and that's
that
what
is
I'm
the-
worried about.
That is the solution to this issue, is the people that benefit from that property
Right,
should be
so
the
in
ones
5,
to
6,
take
7
care of it.
years, it's possible, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's possible, if you look at other areas in Horn Lake, who's had HOAs, who dissolved now, and you can see the quality of that property is not as if they had a HOA. So that's what I'm worried about.
The HOA is a corporation, is a legal entity. So,
I understand.
And it holds title to the property, so it's an owner, the same as any of us are owners of property.
I understand how it
in Lake.
works, but I also understand it can dissolve.
Okay.
I'm just worried about the future based on what we see now out here. That's what I'm worried about. I tend to.
Alderman Young.
We got a lot of detentions and retentions and other tensions going on. You're telling me that you're gonna take that retention on that 6 feet above the detention pond, and you're gonna make that a separate pond that's not gonna feed into that pond? Because right now, that feeds into that pond. It's got a drain in the bottom of that. I saw it, I looked at it, I poured red dye, and it came out in that lake down there. That's where so you're telling me you're gonna that pond that you're proposing is not gonna drain into that one, is what you're telling me. Where is it gonna drain?
I was thinking that it drained into the ditch downstream.
And that's the reason your comment is you're not worried about those folks downstream. You're only worried about this property because that's what you're paid. I'm not
I hope I didn't say that.
Well, that's what you said. That's pretty much, in legal jargon, you didn't, but that's pretty much what you said.
Well, I would be
I
concerned
just want to
about
make
anybody
sure
downstream.
that I'm understanding, you're gonna put a 1.2 acre pond into that area and drain it out into the same area where we got a detention pond now that's causing flooding downstream. That's what you're proposing.
I mean, we will,
I'm asking you what you're proposing. Is that what you're gonna do?
well, my understanding was that they operated separate.
Well, they don't, but I mean, it doesn't matter. It's just a small drain because there's never been any water in it. Alderman Geis found that out in the GIS. It never holds any water. So that water doesn't evaporate after it rains. So it goes somewhere and it goes into that 2.8 acre pond down there is where it goes. So my question remains, you're gonna fix it so it does not flow into that pond, right? It will not go into that pond.
We will present civil drawings to Vince for review
Okay.
at the time.
And it's gonna drain out to where that pond drains out now.
We will present plans to make sure he approves and is happy with the drainage working the way
That's
And
correct.
and the way it should work is that we don't cause you any problems downstream.
Yeah,
That- and-
until the good Lord says it's a 100-year flood time, then we all got problems. So, are you okay with that, Mr. Malavasi?
What I was gonna add to that is basically, yeah, when they present their plans, and the way I'm hearing it, is what's gonna happen is that upper pond, I'm gonna leave out the detention, the upper pond basically will take care of everything in the blue area up there. And so when it receives the floodwaters, it will take it and control it so that it's not flooding downstream based on the design criteria. The other side, the blue side, down the southern pond, will basically do the same thing for the blue, and they will be separate. Now, he can design it, both of them together, but that's a different model altogether, and we'll just have to show that. But my understanding from what he's telling me is they're gonna be totally separate, and they'll take care of each one of the basins separately, and will outfall, both of them will outfall in the same ditch, but we'll be releasing less water than they are now, probably because I'm hearing it's flooding down there, and I've seen it flood. They will be releasing less water so that the downstream will not flood under the circumstances of the design criteria.
Thank you for your clarification. Thank you.
Anyone else? Alderman Bledsoe.
A detention pond is the one where it don't hold water and flows off at a natural flow, right? A retention pond holds water and lets it go out slower. So Vince, you're saying this probably won't have any effect downstream, or it might help the problem going downstream or upstream, whatever it is.
Well, they both detain it to a certain level. It's just that the detention pond will eventually drain out completely, whereas the retention pond will end up pooling water, and it'll hold that water there year-round, basically. So that's the difference. In the retention pond will hold water year-round, and will have a area that it operates,
Right.
which is basically your detention area.
And this will help the stuff that they're having down or upstream north, how's that?
Yes, north of that.
Yeah, I don't know what up or down
Is that in the
on there.
basin? If it's in the blue area, yes, if that's what you're asking.
Okay, as long as it takes care of them folks up north, that's fine.
Does anyone else have any questions or comments? Let me make sure I got this right on all these ponds, Mr. Billy. The retention pond is owned by the state of Mississippi right now.
That's correct.
The detention pond is on the property that Mr. Montesi purchased.
That's correct.
Right. Mr. Montesi, the plan is for the homeowners association to get ownership of the retention pond, the big one, is that correct? Get it from the state of Mississippi.
That's correct.
Mr. Montesi is willing to install amenities.
That's correct.
And so if it belongs to the homeowners association, it'll be the homeowners association responsibility to maintain that.
That's correct.
It won't be the city's.
That's
All right?
correct.
Now, on the bottom one, on the one on Mr. Montesi's property,
That's correct.
is he gonna put some amenities around that or not?
I'm not aware of any plan to do that at this point.
But since it'd be, would that property then still be Mr. Montesi's, or would it also be the homeowners association property?
It'll eventually be common area owned by the homeowners association.
So it won't throw any burden on the resources of the city.
That's correct.
The homeowners association will maintain both of them.
That's correct.
All right, thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Well, let's be clear, Mr. Mayor, on the retention pond, the maintenance that Mr. Myers is talking about is just the maintenance of the amenities, i.e. the gazebo and park benches and the grass.
That's correct.
He's not offering to maintain the pond itself such that it functions as a retention pond and drains water correctly. That is not included in his definition of maintenance.
That's correct.
Thank you, sir. But we have other homeowners associations that have ponds and lakes. And if they own the property, then this, to me, it'd be their responsibility to maintain that. We couldn't do work on private property. The other homeowners association maintain their bodies of water. And once it's titled over to the homeowners association, I don't see where it would be a problem, especially since it's not a huge body of water to start with. I'm not understanding why the homeowners association wouldn't be responsible for maintaining the retention pond.
Well, Mr. Mayor, let me also add that in the legal documents that are necessary to go forward with this, not only acquiring title from the state of Mississippi, but also allowing access for the city of Horn Lake to do whatever maintenance it needs to do for its drainage structures. We'll include that in the legal documents with Mr. Campbell, access easement or maintenance easement or whatever is required to give the city of Horn Lake access. The reason, I think there's a clear distinction between amenities and use of the lake by the homeowners that live there and maintenance of the drainage structure. Just as common sense, these are problems that weren't created by this board or by the owner of this property. These are problems that we have stuck with solving, okay? Fairness dictates that Mr. Montesi, who owns the property not in the blue up there, and this is critical to the analysis, is the property in the blue, when the water falls from the sky and hits that property, it goes through that pond. That pond takes care of the drainage issues upstream and downstream of that development that Mr. Montesi had absolutely nothing to do with. Why the HOA wasn't formed and why it hadn't been maintained properly, we don't know. It just hasn't. Mr. Montesi is proposing to solve one of those problems, but he's not in a position, nor would the homeowners of this 34 homes be in a position to maintain a drainage structure that's tantamount to a utility. It's rainwater, it's stormwater that's all over the city of Horn Lake. Now, whether the city of Horn Lake wants to charge back whatever that cost may be to the homeowners that benefit, I think up to this board. But I mean, I can read this PUD document, Billy and I might disagree on it, but it's ambiguous at best. And I think it doesn't put the, think about it, why would it charge the homeowners of the townhomes with maintaining a drainage structure that they don't even benefit from? Yeah. It benefits, what, a couple of hundred other homeowners, not the townhomes. So it just seemed would be patently unfair, in my view at least, in my reading of it. Of course, I represent Mr. Montesi, but in any case, you know, the amenities weren't built. He's willing to do that. That solves that problem. It does what this prior board intended to happen. It will happen. I don't even know if there's a cost associated or what that retention pond requires today to operate. If it's not operating correctly, then it needs to be addressed. Apparently the state of Mississippi that owns it now is not going to do it. Maybe that's who should, I don't know.
I've got a question, Mayor.
Alderman Guys.
That retention pond is designed, according to their engineering drawings, to take the water from the area not owned by the applicant today. So, say we don't come to an agreement and he doesn't do anything with that piece of property, the state still owns that retention pond.
Aren't they buying it from the state?
No, if he doesn't, okay? And we discover that that retention pond is causing all the flooding. What recourse do we have against the state of Mississippi to fix it at all? Or would we be responsible for fixing it?
Yeah, probably none, Alderman Geis. They're not going to come in and maintain property that's been struck off to the state unless it's really a public health hazard.
Yes, sir. So if that's what's causing the flooding or it gets worse and it doesn't get developed, we would be responsible for the maintenance and repair of that anyway. I understand Mr. Campbell's reading of that PUD document, and I agree with him, but it doesn't make sense to me to require the owner of that section to pay for the maintenance and repair and flooding caused by another section. That doesn't make sense to me. You know, it may be what's in writing and all that, but it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me that he has to buy that piece of property to begin with because it's not part of that section that he already owns. So I'm at a loss on how to handle this, but it doesn't make sense to me to require the homeowners in one section. I'd be rather upset if my homeowners association had to pay for flooding in Holly Hills. You know, I would not be happy with that at all. So, and I'm sure Holly Hills would feel the same way if we were causing it. So it seems like there's something we can come up with here without stopping this project and making someone else be responsible for someone dropping the ball years ago. You know, that's just my opinion. I don't know what, somebody smarter than me is gonna have to come up with a solution to that, but it just doesn't make sense.
It's a Gordian knot, and all of us up here, this, like you said, Mr. Myers, Mr. Monteith is, by his plans, is attempting to actually assist. I believe that you, Mr. Gruen, one said that it would actually slow down the amount of water going into the ditch that flows north. Is that correct? Yes. Oh, okay. That's why I just want to make sure I got it straight. I don't hear real well, so I wanted to be sure. But the board is trying to just figure out something because we've had issues that were left hanging on a couple of pieces of property about retention and detention ponds, and we just want to make sure that we get it straight and get this issue resolved tonight. So y'all have been more than patient, you and Mr. Montesi, Civil Link, and the board have been more than patient too. Numerous trips, I know it's tying up people's money, and I hope that tonight we can come to a resolution of this. Does anyone else have any questions or comments for?
I have a question for Steve.
Alderman Klein.
I have a question for Steve. Currently, you know, the state owns that detention pond. Have y'all had to do any kind of work there?
Yeah, we've had to cut around it.
All right, so that's basically all the Public Works has done, is just keeping the grass cut.
Yeah.
Have y'all done any work on detention ponds in the city?
Have we done some work on some detention ponds?
Right. Is there any that we're responsible for?
Recently, we've had to have one cleared that had some blockage on it, on the drain pipe on it, but that's about as far as we.
So I have no idea what's all involved in keeping and maintaining the detention pond. So I don't know if it's an expensive process or if it's just a, you know, something that has to be scheduled in there to maintain.
The last thing we had to do with a pond that was detaining water, which was causing backup, we had to contract that out, to get a contractor out there to get a piece of equipment out there to get it unstopped.
Excuse me, Mr. Box, can you speak into the mic, please?
Yeah, I was just saying that we had to contract that out when we had a problem with that pond backing water up. We had to get a contractor with some equipment out there to get in there to get it unstopped. But that's about as much as I know as what we've ever done with working on detention ponds.
So, Mr. Campbell, then what we run into there is now the homeowners own the new detention pond, but does not maintain it. So, can the city even legally go on there to try to maintain it?
Yeah, well, Mr. Myers referenced it. Assuming you approve this proposal, after they acquire the property from the state, they would grant the city an easement to go on that retention pond property in order to maintain its, whatever is necessary to make it function properly as a retention pond. And, you know, legally you could do that because all that is an extension of the stormwater for that entire PUD subdivision. It's really no difference than, you know, having to maintain some stormwater concrete drainage in front of somebody's house that may have collapsed.
Yeah, we'll definitely give the legal right to have access. And that's the distinction is, you know, we're proposing amenities and cutting the grass, which saves you money there.
Right.
But the drainage structure itself benefits those other homeowners, and we're not proposing to take over that responsibility, but give you access if the city wants to take it over, or whoever the city deems is responsible.
Okay.
We're not adding any burden, we're taking one away.
Okay.
The burden exists, as Alderman Guy suggests, it exists today. And if Chris weren't here, you'd still be dealing with it.
Right, yes. I have one more question.
Yes, sir.
Now, I believe Mr. Montesi, they had discussed about the homeowners association, and if I'm not mistaken, when you set up a homeowners organization, you stay with it up to, you build it to 80% of the property sold or 100%?
Mayor and Board, Christopher Montesi, 5345 Wildbrook Cove, Memphis, Tennessee. Typically, yes, anywhere between 70% and 80%, and at that point, the homeowners have authority to take and overrule any reigning ownership that I might have. It just really, it's all about the numbers, and it's about how many people and how many homeowners are actually participants. And at that point, then I have to basically surrender it to the HOA. You kind of, the inmates then control the asylum.
Gotcha. Thank you, sir.
And in answer to your question about have we ever done anything on a body of water like this, we had to cut, remember Crutcher Heights. They just let it go dry, it just grew all up, and we had to cut it. It was a matter of public health more than once. But I think we've solved that problem now, hopefully. But I hope Mr. Montesi, Mr. Myers, Mr. Gruen all understand we're just trying to eliminate any problems that come up in the future so we can get this settled and everybody understands who's responsible for what. And I appreciate all the input, and I'm kind of like Alderman Geis, you know, whose property? You want to say something, Mr. Billy?
Well, we hope we've offered a reasonable solution that helps this board and allow Mr. Montesi to go forward with his development, which we believe would be an amenity for the city.
Does anyone else have any questions? Alderman Bledsoe.
Well, one thing right now, if something happened to that pond, the state's not gonna fix it, so guess who's gonna have to fix it? So we'd have to fix it. So they're helping us, I think, by eliminating some of the water by drainage and stuff. And we have done another project over there where that man drowned over behind by the high school. We dug out, we had big pipes there and they were stopped up and it was bagging up, and they had one of those systems that drain out in the lake, the sewage system thing. So we had to go over and clean that out, and that's been years ago. So I think it'd be a good deal for the city, as long as it don't flood the people down or up north.
I'm counting on the engineers to make sure that doesn't happen.
Alderman Dupree.
Yeah. I want to go back to what I was saying earlier about the HOAs. Mr. Montesi said that they could take over after 70% was built. That's what I'm worried about. Let's look at the future, not right now at this moment. Let's look at the future. What's going to happen or could happen, more than likely is going to happen because of Horn Lake has already failed in some homeowners associations. What are we going to do after that 70%? And they say, hey, we're not going to pay these dues anymore. We want to dissolve. Now you're on private property with this detention, and if it's grown over, something's wrong with it, we can't go on to private property. So what we're going to do is have a resolution of cleaning it. Who do we put that resolution to, since there's no homeowners association?
I can address that
Okay.
a little bit, and I'm sure Mr. Campbell can as well.
Because
but-
you understand what I'm trying to say. I'm playing the
Understand that
devil's
the-
advocate because I want to see the future. We want to grow. We don't want to get to a point that we're right here and then we're right back down here.
The dues will be a lien on that property, so those liens are enforceable. Now, it takes legal action, and you have to
Sure,
board close and do all
it
that.
hasn't
but
happened
the-
here.
But the remedy is there.
Yeah, we're not, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 homes either.
Well,
And this is
I don't
a
think
problem for me. I'm looking at
talking
the
about that
future,
much
not
money.
right now. When y'all leave, you got your money, you're not gonna look back at us. You're not gonna really care. We are sitting here for our folks in the future. That's why we're there. So I don't agree.
But we will leave systems in place that should function, should perform the tasks necessary. You may have had some bad experiences, but HOAs are the way that the entire county operates. They're everywhere. My subdivision has one. Pay my dues, and if I didn't.
Yeah, but how much
they
is your
would-
house?
I'm the lawyer for my HOA,
Exactly.
so I know we're getting our dues paid. So,
You get
There's a
people in here
remedy, I
buying
promise
these condos or townhomes, whatever you want to call it. They're making, $30,000, $40,000 a year, and you can't speak for them, I mean no disrespect whatsoever, but it's just not going to work.
is there a better solution than an HOA? I mean, I don't know what it would be.
I wish there was.
Does anyone else have any questions or comments? Alderman Geis.
Just real quick, I understand what you're saying, but isn't that true of any development that we ever approve? They're all gonna have a homeowners association and they all can fail. I don't know if all those homeowners in that section, I'm not a lawyer, but if all those homeowners in that section were responsible for the maintenance outside of that pond, I would think that they would still be responsible, homeowners association or not. I don't know, I'm not a lawyer.
No, I'm talking within their property, not outside of that. I agree with you on that retention pond.
Yeah.
Is there any more discussion, any more questions or comments? All right. Did y'all have any, Mr. Billy? Anything else?
No, thank you for the opportunity to present it. I hope we've answered all your questions, and we respectfully request approval of the subdivision application as presented with the extension of dependent on our acquiring title to that property, granting the city of Horn Lake the easement necessary to access it for maintaining the drainage aspect of that property, with our commitment initially informing the HOA to own the property and maintain the amenities that will be constructed there.
Yes, sir. Mr. Monteith, did you have anything or just? All right, sir.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bob, did you have any comments? Or?
Mayor, I do not.
Mr. Vance, do you have any questions, concerns, or comments you'd like to present to the board?
No, sir, not at this point.
Mr. Box?
No, sir, not nothing right now.
All right. We are ready for a motion then. Do we have a motion?
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the development with all the staff recommendations, and also with our city engineer having to sign off on the final for drainage.
We have a motion by Alderman Klein. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Geis. Do we have any more discussion?
Mayor,
Alderman Geis.
do we need to add in contingent on them acquiring the title to that state property and allowing the city easement rights for drainage in that retention pond?
Please, yes, sir.
Okay, so,
Will you include that in your motion, Alderman Klein?
yes, please
And I-
include that amendment.
As amended, how about second still good, Alderman Geis?
Yes, sir.
Any questions, any comments? Roll call, please, Mr. Jim.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe. Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Nay.
Alderman Dupree.
Nay.
Alderman Young.
Nay.
Motion carries 4 in favor, 3 against. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much. All right. All right, we're on number 6 on the agenda. New business, letter A. Do we have a motion?
Mayor,
Alderman Young.
request to renew Elliott Data Systems Agreement for Security Access Controls 3-year term at a cost of $3,720.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Alderman Bledsoe. Any discussion? Is that $3,720 a year, Mr. Robinson?
No, it's a 3-year term.
So it should be 3 times that.
No,
Total?
that
Total.
amount covers a 3-year
Okay.
term.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree. Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe. Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Motion is passed. All right, letter B, do we have a motion?
Mayor,
Alderman Geis.
I make a motion to consider and adopt a resolution requesting the state legislature extend the city's authority to levy a hotel motel tax.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Geis. We have a second by Alderman Klein. And this, of course, is for our hotel motel fund here. And the legislature is getting ready to start. Any more discussion? Alderman Young.
I'd like to include that we go down and pick it if necessary.
Pick it down. Oh, okay.
Hey, Mayor,
Alderman Bledsoe.
and that is not really a tax on the city.
No,
Okay, I just want everybody to know that.
it's just for people who'll be staying each night in one of our hotels or motels.
Free money.
And we welcome our visitors. Any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe. Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree. Alderman Young.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Letter C. I would assume this is the trees by the railroad track. Is that it?
Yes, yes, sir.
All right, do we have a motion for letter C?
Mayor,
Alderman Bostic.
I want to make a motion to request to approve the bid of tree removal on Dell Road from Lake Tree Services LLC at a price not to exceed $2,500.
We have a motion by Alderman Bostic. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Young. Is there any discussion?
Mayor, how many trees is it?
It's about
How many
seven-
trees?
About
17?
17.
Yeah, it's quite a few. It's like 17, but they're not real huge trees. They're just kind of bunched up all together.
Junk trees, okay.
I think I understand what you're getting at since we're a tree city. Because Mr. Gary mentioned that to me. I don't know, they're almost like large saplings instead of trees there. And I know exactly what they're referring to, Alderman Dupree, because I almost got hit by a train there before they put those signals up. You couldn't see up the railroad track. So I don't want to see how this will affect our tree city status, but I don't know for sure. Mr. Billy, do you happen to know all that?
I do not, Mr. Mayor, but I can't imagine that it would impact it adversely if this is a safety issue.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Most time at Tree City USA, if it's a hindrance to our safety for us, you can do that.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for bringing it up, Mr. Campbell. Any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Guys.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe. Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Number 7, did anybody sign up for citizens' remarks?
No, sir.
All right. Number 8, Mayor Alderman correspondence. Again, I hope you had a good Christmas. I hope you have a blessed New Year. Unfortunately, one of our policemen lost his wife on the 23rd, the illness. If you could remember them in your prayers, we certainly would appreciate it. All right. Alderman Young, you have anything, sir?
I do, sir, if I may. If you're not aware, I went around my ward 3 days and wrote down all the outage lights, the street lights. Well, today, did y'all get an email from Energy? You got an app now? You can go on the app and go right down the app, and when you stop, just push that street lights out. Sure would have saved me a lot of time. So Energy, please. But it's a great app. If you don't have it, go to Energy Mississippi, and you can download the app. So if your people are out, street lights are out, just ask them where it's at or ride by and just push the button and it goes straight to them. That saves Public Works and the mayor a lot of time because it goes straight to them. It's a great deal. It really
Thank you
is.
I didn't even know it existed.
Yeah, I wish they'd have done it 3 days ago, but anyway.
I know Alderman Bostic has been very adamant and persistent and doing a good job on checking on the street lights. And Mr. Box, from what I understand, the major holdup in getting them replaced is Energy subs that out, and they will not. All we can do is notify them. We can't go out there and do anything else.
Right, we can just notify them, and we're just on it's a waiting game.
Right. I wish if there were something. Commissioner Presley, a couple of months ago at a meeting, a COG meeting, they're coming up with a plan, and Energy's basically agreeing to it. Well, there'll be a private company. We can just speak to them. Tunica has signed up, and I've tried to get in touch with the mayor of Tunica to find out more details and see how it's working, but I haven't been able to yet during the holidays. I keep missing him. So,
Mayor, one more item, please.
yes, sir.
On January the 22nd, I'm proud to say that my wife has organized a neighborhood watch in agreement with Deputy Chief Brown down here. On January the 22nd at 2 p.m. in these chambers, there will be a reorganization of the neighborhood watch, hopefully within Horn Lake. So anybody in any ward, any alderman, anybody wishes to attend that meeting, it'll be an information meeting. It'll be hosted and run by Chief Brown. And we will have refreshments and that kind of stuff. And so hopefully we'll get this kicked back off, because our police department needs all the help they can get, and our neighbors need all the help we can give them.
It's an excellent idea, and thank you. Mr. John Mark, could you be sure and get that on our social media? 2 p.m. on the
22nd of January in these chambers.
Anything else, sir? Alderman Dupree, you have anything, sir?
No, sir.
Alderman Johnson?
No, sir.
Alderman Bostic?
No, sir.
Alderman Geis?
No, sir.
Alderman Bledsoe?
Yes, sir. I'd like everybody to know that we have a football player playing for the University of Georgia, and they put Horn Lake, Mississippi on the map because he said it in front of millions of people, and he just grinned from ear to ear. And maybe one of these days, when they win the national championship, we can have a day for him.
I think that's an excellent idea, because he got the Dick Buckus Award not only for the Lineman of the Year in the high school level, but college level. And he's definitely lets everybody know where he was from, and I would really appreciate it if the board gave some thought to Alderman Bledsoe's idea about, let's have a day in his honor. Have to wait till it's warmer so we can get people out. And plus, they gotta win the championship. We gotta win this over.
And he also was named the captain of the team that goes around for, citizens and stuff and does things at hospitals and stuff, and he was named for that. I think it was 22 people, and he was the captain of that whole team, so that's a pretty good order for Horn Lake.
And it speaks so well of the quality of that young gentleman, too.
Mayor,
Alderman
we
Young.
need to get busy because they'll probably be national champions on the 10th, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I didn't put my neck out there.
We know.
Alderman Klein, do you have anything, sir?
No, sir.
Mr. Campbell, do you have anything, sir?
I do not, Mr. Mayor.
Chief Brown, do you have anything, sir?
No, sir, I do not. The only thing I do have, if the board would like to hear anything about the fireworks over the last week.
Please.
I do have the numbers for that. Since the 20th, when they could start selling them through this morning, I ran the numbers. We had a total of 9 citizen complaints. 4 of those were from Alderman, the other 5 were not. Each time the officers went out there, they did not make any contact with any violations or anybody shooting fireworks. Just a little more information, we did 2 separate details where underage juveniles were sent in to try to purchase fireworks. They were not sold any fireworks. Matter of fact, they were turned away and given sheets with the city ordinance with those. And on New Year's Eve, we had a detail out that was working not only DUI, but also fireworks enforcement. They didn't have any violations that they were able to find that evening at all.
Thank you, sir. Anybody have any questions or comments for
Yes,
Chief
sir.
Brown? Mr. Box, you have anything, sir?
Nothing, but just a reminder that Debbie McBride, who works for our utility clerk's office, will be retiring this month. I think she will have a little retirement party for her on the 14th, if I'm not mistaken. But just a shout out to her that she's done excellent work with us, and just want to give her a big thanks.
Do you know offhand how many years she has in with the city?
I think she told me today 15.
She's been an excellent employee. Anyone have questions or comments for Mr. Box? Chief Linville, you have anything, sir?
I do not.
Anyone have questions? Alderman Geis?
Did you have any fireworks issues?
We didn't have any calls on fireworks or any injuries or anything that we had on any type of call out for ambulance or fire.
Okay, no Christmas fires either?
None during the holidays. We've had one at 0:38 hours on January the 1st. We had a little kitchen fire, but it was contained to the pot on the stove, so it wasn't anything major. That was the only structure fire we got called out on. We've had some fire alarms and some water flows, a few things at Best Western this morning, but that was steam coming from the pool room and because of the temperature.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else? Mr. Coleman, do you have anything for the board, sir?
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Board. Happy New Year to you all. The only thing that I have is that we start basketball this weekend. Our youth program will begin. We'll be playing at intermediate school, high school, and the middle school. So that's all I have.
How many did you have sign up, sir?
We had around 450.
Anybody have any questions, comments for Mr. Coleman?
Hey, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Yes, so how many teams would that be?
It's around 53 teams.
53 teams.
Mr. Vance, you have anything for the board, sir?
I do not at this time, Mayor. Thank you.
Anyone have any questions or comments for Mr. Vance? Mr. Robinson, did you have anything, sir?
I do not, Mr. Mayor.
Anybody have any questions, comments for Mr. Jim? Mr. Barber, did you have anything else for the board, sir?
Happy New Year.
Anybody have any questions?
Appreciate
for
you
Mr.
letting me fill in.
Mr. Bob, we thank you for coming in because as complicated as that was, it would have had to been put off again, and that wouldn't have been fair to the board or to the applicant out there. But Thank you, Mr. Bob. Thank you all. All right. Do we have a motion for closed determination?
Mayor,
Alderman Bostic.
make a motion for closed determination.
Do we, a motion by Alderman Bostic. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Young. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe. Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Ladies and gentlemen, if y'all would excuse us just a moment, please. All right, we're back. Is there a motion to come out of closed determination?
Mayor,
Alderman Bostic.
make a motion to come out of closed determination.
Do we have a second to the
Second.
motion by Alderman Bostic?
Second.
Second by Alderman Young. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe. Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, excuse me, none opposed. I beg your pardon. Do we have a motion to go into executive session?
Mayor,
Alderman Bostic.
I want to make a motion to go into executive session to discuss items A through D.
Do we have a second to the motion?
Second.
Second by Alderman Bostic. Bledsoe. Motion by Alderman Bostic, second by Alderman Bledsoe. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe. Alderman Klein.
Aye. Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. We happy few, we band of brothers. Thank y'all for sticking out with us. 2 days to Epiphany. Do we have a motion to come out of executive session?
Mayor, I make a motion to come out of executive session.
We have a motion by Alderman Bostic. Do we have a second?
Not a second, Mayor.
We have a second by Alderman Dupree. Do we have any discussion? Mr. Robinson, roll call, please, sir.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe. Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Do we have any motions resulting from the executive session?
Mayor.
Alderman Young.
Employee number 597, termination is effective December 30th, 2021, as written.
We have a motion by Alderman Young. Do we have a second?
Second that, Mayor.
Second by Alderman Bostic. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please, Mr. Robinson.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe. Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Is there any other motion?
Mayor.
Alderman Young.
I move to contract with Mr. T.J. Cates for professional retail and development consultant services at the total cost of $20,000, payable in equal monthly payments effective immediately through September 30, 2022, and to be paid with hotel motel tax proceeds.
We have a motion by Alderman Young. Do we have a second?
I'll second that, Mayor.
Second by Alderman Bostic. Is there any further discussion? Mr. Robinson, roll call, please, sir.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe. Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. If there is no other business before this honorable board, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Mayor, I'll make that motion to adjourn.
We have a motion by Alderman Dupree to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Young. Is there any discussion? Mr. Robinson, please call the roll.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe. Alderman Klein.
Aye.
This motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Ladies and gentlemen, we are adjourned. Everybody be careful going home, please.